Wake up, SBC. I say that because I think a lot of people are not paying attention to what's happening and they don't understand how manipulators work. All right, last year, you guys did a great thing and you got that report out there and you got the truth of what happened to people, to common people, so that they can do things about it. And I feel like so many people have fallen asleep on this thing thinking like that was the end goal. That's just the beginning. And so many people fought to get that done. And now, there's this effort that's happening, maybe a movement, maybe a group of people. I have no idea, but there's some kind of effort that is happening to say, oh, well, you need to get away from the guys who did the report for you. Get away from Guideposts because they're costing too much money and their political leanings. But these same people, this effort that's happening, they aren't coming to the table with a new solution. Why is that? If they were really concerned about how they shouldn't use these guys, why is it that they don't have a solution? We should go then with these guys. The reason why is because they know it's going to be a time waster. They know that, okay, well, if that happens, then it'll be a process and we'll have to get committees together and we'll have to figure out who the next solution is going to be. And this isn't about the task force, okay? I'm talking about people outside of that. People who are actively moving. And I think given the history of the SBC, including even what was in that report, I don't think this is like red yarn craziness of trying to connect the dots. I think that there is a real effort from individuals, from people, from even networks that are trying to suppress the truth of what these survivors have been through and who are the abusers and where did they go after they abused and why are they in positions of leadership in various places around the Southern Baptist Convention. They don't want the average church attender to know that information. And so they're trying to say, hey, we shouldn't go with those guys. And then they don't have a solution because they know it'll just be a lot of time. And the thing about time is people will fall asleep at the wheel, like what's happening, I think, right now. I think that people are falling asleep at the wheel. They thought they got the job done with getting the report out, and they're just not paying attention to what the manipulators are doing and saying, oh, yeah, we shouldn't use those guys, but they don't have a solution. And they want us to focus, they want you to focus on who's going to be the CEO, as if that matters. I mean, I get it. It matters. Also, it sounds super weird. CEO of a denomination. I get it also. So many caveats with you guys. I get it. It's a convention. It's a denomination. But it sounds so weird to have a CEO. But, I get that that's important. But why wasn't Wellman voted in on Monday? It isn't because of Wellman. It's because this is a distraction. This is something that's going to draw people's attention because it sounds like a big deal. When it doesn't actually, who probably will get in there isn't going to be someone that's going to make all that much of a difference from what Wellman would have done. But it's a time waster and it's a focus grabber. And now all the focus is on the CEO thing, and the time and the effort that's being used is focused on this when it should be about how to implement changes, how to get a database going within the SBC on this topic of abuse. But now it's just another thing, another thing that people are going to have to go through, and we're going to have to get another committee together, and that committee will have to meet on, 3 months out, and then maybe they'll make a decision about how there has to be another subcommittee to be able to deal with this thing. And this is how manipulators work. I've seen it time and time again. They will use the kindness and the reasonable nature of good and godly Christians against them. Because when they look at that thing, when they see kindness and they see reasonableness, all they see is passivity. They see people who are willing to wait and be patient and to figure out, what's the best way to do something. Now is not the time. Wake up, SBC. It is not the time to be passive. You need to be active on this thing. You need to put your foot down and actually, full throttle, go at this issue of abuse. Your reputation is dependent upon it. The people within your churches there are people right now who are going through it in the SBC. 50,000 churches. 50,000 churches, and that there are people who are being abused right now. With those numbers, based off of the report and everything else, there are people who are being abused right now in the SBC, and they're going to continue to be abused until you guys do something about it. So do something. Don't be distracted with the topic of female pastors. You know, I saw today that there's a video of a guy saying there's 170 female pastors in the SBC, and we need to do something about that. Now, as a Baptist, you know, who is creedal, and I think that we need to have a confession of faith that we agree on and all of that kind of stuff. I agree. Those topics are important, but don't get distracted. 170 out of 50,000 churches. All right, let's say that every one of those, which is probably not the case, but every one of those female pastors, whatever that means, whatever that investigation was, let's say that each one of them pastors an entire church. So then you're talking about 170 churches out of 50,000. That is 0.3%. So you really want to focus on an issue of 0.3% when you know that there's abuse that's happening in the SBC and you're just not going to do anything about it because you're trying to be patient and kind and deal with people. Now is the time to get a little aggressive. Don't sleep on this thing, because the manipulators will use your patience against you. So wake up, do something. New Orleans is just around the corner, and you guys have decisions to make. Don't wait for someone else to make that decision for you behind closed doors in executive session. You get the job done on that floor. And hey, maybe while you're at it, why don't you help some of the survivors get there? There's been a GoFundMe that's been started by Keith Myers, and it's got a lot of support, but they need some more. So there's a link down in the description. If you want to support, you know, some of these survivors who have been through so much and they want to represent, you know, this new change that needs to happen in the SBC on this topic, at least help them get there. Let them get there. Let their voices be heard there in New Orleans, and then do something. I'll see you in the next video.